Hi, I'm Mike Glavin. I'm currently Managing Director of Mike Glavin Catalyst Limited. My background includes being head teacher of 3 different schools, so that's 18 years head teacher experience altogether. I was also a senior officer in a local authority before I went on to be Managing Director of the largest educational consortium in Wales that provided school improvement services to 5 different local authorities. I'm now partially retired and running my own business to provide help and support to schools when needed. I was asked to do some work with a school in Bristol, and when I do my coaching work in schools, I like to use a model of some sort of framework. It was then I came across the DFES head teacher standards. I found them really comprehensive and particularly well written, so I wanted to use those to provide a framework against which people could self-evaluate. The senior leadership team could have self-evaluated and see how they were doing. I also wanted to make sure that they fitted with Ofsted expectations, so I made a point of linking the head teacher standards to the Ofsted framework and the Ofsted school inspection handbook. And it's proved to be very valuable in coaching in the school. It then became clear to me that it could be useful for other schools to use, and that's when I decided to put them together in the one tool. In simple terms, the tool allows or facilitates a thorough self-evaluation by a head teacher or by senior leaders aspiring to be head teachers. Difficulty is with that is head teachers are very, very busy people, and they tend to put everybody else's needs and professional development above their own. But from my experience, the school is far likely to be a better one if the head teacher can make time to look at their own self-development. So by linking it to the Ofsted requirements, it sort of shows the head that if they improve their own performance, they will make the school a better place and therefore secure better Ofsted outcomes, hopefully. So it's a little bit of a tease to tempt head teachers into making that time for themselves in order to improve the school. Like all good tools, it can be used in a number of ways. There's a paper version and there's an electronic version. So those that use the paper version may well sit down with highlighters and highlight, say, in green the areas that they feel that they're doing well in, amber the ones that they've started but are not yet embedded, and perhaps red for the ones that they've yet to look at. It can be used, you can start at the beginning and work through each of the standards in turn, but it can also be flexible and it can fit in with schools' existing self-evaluation processes and tackled and looked at a time that suits the school. For those that like to work electronically, it comes with a digital version. You can go online and work your way through the head teacher standards, my prompts, and how it links to the Ofsted requirements. And from looking at all that evidence, you can then sort of say, well, if that's what people are looking for, what evidence have I got to show that I'm doing that? And then I've provided a suggested 4-point scale whereby heads can self-evaluate and say, well, I think for these reasons I get 2 out of 4 in this one. And the great thing about it for me is the electronic version of the tool then produces very simply a diagrammatic representation of how the head sees his or her performance. That can be used in a number of ways. It can be just kept for the head teacher. It can be used as a catalyst for self-development and school development and school improvement in that way. So it can be used in that way to provide thorough head teacher self-evaluation. It can be shared, if they wish, with governors and perhaps facilitate discussions around performance management. I've used it in schools to develop the senior leadership team, allowing them to identify their strengths and their developmental need. I've actually used it in one school with an occupational therapist so that she could gain a better understanding of the context in which she worked. Because it gives a comprehensive overview of what a good school could look like, or indeed in many cases should look like, I also feel that it could be really useful for governors in getting a broad picture and a broad understanding of what they're looking for when they hold the schools that they lead to account. I've also used it in helping people prepare for headship interviews, again because it gives such a thorough overview of what is required of a head teacher. But like all good tools, it's flexible and can be used in a number of different ways. its simplicity, both in written form and in its electronic form. It's not all about the technology. Sometimes technology can get in the way. It can look very, very impressive, but everybody's scared to use it or it's too complex to use. It relates directly to the expectations of Ofsted, both in their framework and in their handbook. And it provides a diagrammatic representation of a head teacher's current performance, so they can at just a glance see what their strengths are, and they can see what their developmental need is. Now, for a range of schools, if they decided to share those, perhaps it'd be a school improvement group or a multi-academy trust, they would be able to look as a whole what the whole institution has as its strengths and developmental needs, and that can facilitate the sharing of good practice, as well, of course, of identifying any training needs for the organisation as a whole. Yes, the tool's available now. I will send a copy of the booklet to the school with the guidelines on how to download the electronic version. Yes, there's a clear need to develop one in Wales. It's slightly different because of the expectations of those informal leadership roles, but I am looking to produce one that relates directly to the ESTIN framework and the ESTIN guidance for the inspection of both primary and secondary schools.